bit of a, we're going to step away and really kind of focus on creating or breaking bad habits and seeing, what that experience is like,
Mm-hmm.
seeing if we're feeling tempted, seeing if it's altering our minds in a different way after we're stepping away from it.
Got it. Well, so two things that jump out at me. One is, so are the three of you having like accountability meetings about this, or like is that helping that you're doing it? You said friends. I assume it's two friends. The two
Yeah,
friends you have your business with, we have our business with,
yeah.
and I'm not participating, mind you. That's why I'm a minority owner. I don't play these games. But do the three of you like check in daily, or how do you?
Yeah, we're not doing daily check-ins. It's kind of like so every morning, we have our team huddle. We
Yep,
also have our other team
yep.
huddle. So like, we're basically just touching.
Hey, welcome back to the Cash Flow Podcast with me, Pam Pryor. Glad to have you here where we talk about everything money related in your business. So without further ado, let's hop right in. And welcome back to Cash Flow. So glad to see you here. We have a great 3 segments for you today. The first one, in the news, we're going to do something fun and talk about some wacky taxes from around the world. You wouldn't believe some of the things that are taxed and some of the exemptions people get. So that'll be the first thing. Then we're going to dive into our beer selection, and it's going to be another local brewery for us here in the Philadelphia area called Vault Brewery in Pennsylvania, and they have an awesomely named beer, which actually somebody at the grocery store told me a story about. So I'll share that. And then finally, in our news segment, nope, in our cash flow segment, Francis is going to talk to us about Sober December because we've just started to get into mindset things around habits and atomic habits. And we're going to really dive into a real life example for us in our partnership. So stay tuned. We're going to jump right into the news now. Welcome to our news segment. I love the news music. But here we go. So there are all sorts of wacky taxes all over the world, and Intuit, wants to take over the world, the owners of TurboTax and QuickBooks, have written a really good article on some of what they picked out as the 7 wackiest taxes. I don't think they actually picked the 7 wackiest one. I'm going to go through what those 7 are, but I think the funnier ones are the ones at the very end of the article that they gave honorable mention. So let's jump through to the first one. So who knew that in the US, well, I guess some people knew, there is a jock tax in many states, which got instituted back in 1991 after Chicago Bulls beat the LA Lakers because they realized how much money was getting paid into those games. So California decided to institute a tax that is half of the states in the union have now adopted. That's a jock tax. So they take a cut from any highly paid athletes into the state coffers. So that's number 1. I did not know that. Here's the next one. This one was passed in 1696, and it was called a window tax. It's an ingenious way of imposing an income tax on the rich without calling it that because in 1696, not a lot of people had windows. This was mostly put in place in England, Scotland, and Great Britain in the 18th and 19th centuries, and essentially was a tax on wealth. So there was a fancy way to say we're going to tax the rich. Then I love this one. This is relatively new and related to global warming. And the tagline says Tokyo's scientists are trying to stop global warming one toot at a time because this is a cow flatulence tax. So there you have it. Since cow flatulence is a leading cause of global warming, this is something that Ireland, Denmark, and a number of EU nations have begun taxing cattle owners on their cow flatulence, byproduct of livestock. So that's an interesting one. Then one I don't like at all, the 4th one here, we're on the 4th one, yep, is a playing card tax. Well, I just discovered on She Said, I didn't just discover, I knew it, I carry playing cards in my purse because you never know when you want to do a card trick. But here's why Alabama is not known for its casinos. It's because they are the only state in the union to charge a 10-cent playing card tax for any deck of cards purchased in Alabama. So there's that. Okay, now this one. According to Maine, The production of wild blueberries is one of the most important agricultural industries in their state, making it necessary to protect it with a tax. Without a tax, the precious blueberries of Maine could be over harvested. So, yes, indeed, there is a blueberry tax. The state of Maine gets a penny and a half per pound of blueberries that are harvested in Maine. And that's so that they can keep the blueberry businesses in check so that those plants can continue to thrive. This sounds a little bit like the trout thing that they do sometimes. Then, gosh, the candy tax, which we all hate, coming from Chicago. This is the candy tax, and it has as much to do with semantics as it does with chemistry. So, candies prepared with flour, like chocolate and ice cream, count as food and are taxed normally, but candies prepared without flour, like hard candy and suckers, are labeled candy. And therefore, they're taxed at an additional 5.25% merchandise rate. That's a lot. Same holds for soft drinks. Then this one in France, they decided that there's a Google tax because all of the online advertisements make so much money that they're going to, in France, impose a Google tax, which is going to appear on Google. If any ads are going to appear on Google, Facebook, or Digg, D-I-G-G, which I've never heard of, they're going to accrue up to $29 million per annum in taxes. And Microsoft, AOL, Yahoo, they're also all going to be subject to the tax. That's a big deal, folks. That one spreads. That's not, but anyway, I thought those were a little weird, but not as weird as some of the honorable mentions. So let's start with the least surprising. In Canada, makers of children's breakfast cereal are granted a tax exemption if their cereal has free toys in it. However, if it doesn't, you don't get it. And it's limited to toys that are not beer, liquor, or wine. So you can't put beer, liquor, or wine inside your cereal box. Not that I'd ever do it. Interesting. Anyway, but the other ones are there's a Russian beard tax, there's a British wig powder tax, which I found very interesting. And then finally, in my opinion, the weirdest of them all, in Sweden, which is one of the places my family has often talked would be wonderful to live, there is a tax for naming your baby something not already in use. Yes, indeed, it's applied to misspelling of names, according to them, and names like Apple. Regardless of income status or tax bracket, everybody pays. That's my wrap on weird taxes. There you go. We think the income tax is weird. The rest of these are really strange. But now, let's stay tuned for an also taxed segment on beer. All right, Francis, welcome back.
Thank you.
We are celebrating a local Yardley brewery, which is the town that I live in, called Vault Brewing.
Yeah.
They actually have a restaurant and brewery down right in the main part of Yardley, which is just adorable. So love this Vault Brewing.
Also, it kind of fits with the brand, right?
It does. It really does, because it is a transformed bank.
Yeah.
And there's a safe in there, and some of the tables are in the safe, and they have a picture. Actually, I'm going to put it back on my Facebook today, as a matter of fact. It's a really neat image they have from the banking days that I will put on my Facebook today.
Awesome.
As the cover photo. So it's housed in a bank from the 1800s, and it brands itself as kind of a non-traditional brew pub, kind of reminiscent of old Philadelphia, sort of speakeasies.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it looks like when you walk into it.
Very like gastropub vibes, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. And it's always full, even during the week. And what they do in the brewery is really look at the effect of very different sensory stimulations and atmosphere on their brews.
Yeah.
So you can only get it on tap. They're available on tap selection, rotates seasonally. In there, you can only get it on tap, but they have the cans that you can take or buy, or you can get a growler. And the one we're doing today is one of my favorites. I have tasted it before, to be fair, but I'm going to give my take on it because it actually tasted a little different to me this time. I actually should look it up online because as I was coming out of the Wegmans the other day, not a sponsor, but you could be Wegmans, the guy explained to me what dead cat bounce was,
Yeah.
and there was a real reason. So at some point we'll cut here and I'll look it up and then I'll mention what it is.
Okay.
But anyway, this beer is hopped with Citra and Idaho Gem. Now, I haven't heard of the Idaho Gem before. I don't think we've tried that.
Mm-mm.
And it's a double New England style IPA that describes itself as luscious with sweet notes of juicy papaya and orange marmalade, with a vivid and crisp piney finish.
Interesting.
8.0% alcohol, and I'm interested in thinking about the taste more than I have when I've tasted it before, because as a rule I wouldn't like luscious and sweet notes.
Yeah.
Papaya and orange make me go but ending with the vivid and crisp. I have not had any yet. The vivid and crisp piney finish is probably why I think I like it.
Gotcha.
So let's open her up and give it a smell. And we'll talk about in our segment why you are not joining me today.
Yeah, indeed. So just also a question. I have had vault beer before, and the last one that I had was the chocolate peanut butter.
I would not. You'd probably like that.
I did not like it.
Oh, okay.
It was not my favorite.
I would not try that unless you made me and bought it here like you do sometimes for our...
I think I'm going to have to do that in the future. That was a really bad pour.
No, it's not terrible. We've done worse.
That's like a 3-inch head.
Inch and a half.
Inch and a half, okay.
So Aristeas, another one of our local breweries that I love.
Yeah.
Yardley's good for the beer. So very, very hazy. It looks like an apple cider almost. It's so thick.
It does.
The
smell was very strong coming off of it too. I can smell the beer.
Do it from the glass, you might get more. And it's actually an interesting smell. It's like an orange smell.
Yeah. What is up with this though? We've been stuck on the fruit, specifically like citrus and orange.
I think it's common in IPAs. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To add just a little bit of something to outmaneuver the hops, I'm guessing.
It does smell sweet.
It does smell sweet. Mm-hmm. And what I will tell you is, like apple cider, it's very there's a lot of sediment at the bottom when you're done.
Oh, like
so I actually
like
drinking this out of the can rather than the glass, because I hate looking at the sediment. It's like, I don't want to drink that.
Yeah.
But that's just an observation about it. Okay, so let me talk about what I think it tastes like.
And I think we should bring a special guest in to give the taste test on the other side of things here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So why don't we special guest?
Why don't we bring Wen in here?
Come on over. We'll put you in sight today.
Yeah.
Can sit with Francis and Tally, although Tally won't make much room.
Totally camera ready.
You know, interestingly, well, let's see what Wen says. Well, Wen hates beer, just for the record, so this is kind of fun to have Wen doing the taste for Francis.
Again, I like how it smells. It's always so
well, Tally,
fruity.
They left the room for you, Sweet Pea. This is torture.
I see how slow you're tilting the glass so you don't have to taste too much.
I mean, I don't like beer, but it's not terrible. It's not my favorite.
Yeah, it's fruity.
Okay.
It's not the worst one you've had.
It doesn't taste as fruity as some of the other ones. It just tastes like that's what.
Just tastes like beer.
Beer. I'm like, okay, beer.
Yeah. Okay. And I get that.
That one mimosa one was like.
That doesn't taste like beer.
Right. It was like fruity to a good point.
That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense.
What would you? What's your 1 to 4 rating?
1 to 5.
Or no, we switched it to 1 to 4.
Oh, that's right, 1 to 4.
Yeah, because there's no middle.
We didn't want to pick the middle.
Yeah.
That's
I don't think I'll ever find a 4 beer.
The mimosa. What was the mimosa one?
Of all of them, that was the 4. But I'm never gonna like your scale is. I would order.
I would hunt it down. No, 4 means I'm hunting it down.
Well,
keeping it in the house.
Okay, fair enough. So your highest would be 3.
What's 2 versus 1?
1 is like I will never put that over my lips again.
Guinness.
2 is that's good. If it was an option, I might get it.
If I have to get one.
3 is if it's on, like, I'm going to look for it on a menu.
Mm-hmm.
4 is I'm going to hunt it down.
3 is the mimosa one. If I have to drink a beer, I would like whatever that one was.
Okay, so that's your top rate.
Okay.
This one is.
I mean, it's like a 1.5.
Yeah,
like,
that
it's
makes
not the
sense.
Guinness, which was rancid, disgusting.
Or the one that tasted like socks. There was that one. I didn't make you taste
try
that.
that one.
No, it smelled like socks.
The soy sauce Guinness one was terrible.
Was it? Okay, so you can 1.5. Okay. You're cheating with the 1.5, but because, I get it. Your scale is like really
different.
Like, different.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this actually a 2.
2? Ooh, okay.
Of the Vault Beers IPAs, it's my least favorite. And like I said, last night when I was drinking it, I saw the sediment again, and that's not a thing for me. But it's good. It's a 2. Like, if I go to Vault and I was there for a couple of beers, I might have this be the second one.
Okay.
That's what I'll
So
say.
would you say that the Vault and Aristeas are your favorite like breweries in this area?
In this area, absolutely. Aristeas is my favorite brewery anywhere in the world.
Okay. Is there a third one that you have up in this area that you like?
Well, Victory.
Victory?
Yeah,
Do you like them
Victory.
a lot?
I love them. They have
So,
a beer called Golden Monkey,
yes.
which is like, I don't know,
It's
nine
strong.
point 5% alcohol. We have a funny story about this. I won't use the name of our extended family member that did this, but you know who I'm talking about, family. And we were in the mountains at an event. Not an event. We would occasionally go to the mountains as a big extended family.
Yeah.
And there were, I don't know, 8 of us, 9 of us that went. And we were playing poker one day in the basement of this really cool house up in the Adirondacks. And we had been drinking beer, and one of the people there didn't realize the power of the Golden Monkey beer, like how much AB whatever there was.
Yeah.
And this is one of the people in my generation of the family, so it was really pretty funny. And I knew, and everybody around the table knew. And she had one of these, and we said to her at one point, "Do you want another beer?" And she looked and she went, "Golden Monkey, 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 monkey." We just looked at her and laughed. She was so trashed and had no idea what she just drank.
A little toasty.
And this is somebody who doesn't drink a lot of beer. Like she'll
Yeah.
have a light beer, one or two at times. But so now one of the family sayings is monkey, monkey, monkey.
That's hilarious.
It was pretty funny. I will never name the name, but we all know who we're talking about. And we all have that friend who did not
Yeah.
realize, like, what the heck did I just do?
Everybody has that moment where something catches up to them,
Yep.
right?
It's like, I certainly have had that happen. All right. So speaking of,
Yeah.
you have done, we talked about habits last week.
Yeah.
And for the last, how long? Month now, I guess? No. 2 weeks, maybe?
Yeah, like 2 to 3 weeks.
You have decided to do something. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so me and my friends have kind of just decided, November it was holiday with Thanksgiving, the wedding,
wedding.
parties, all that stuff. We were going a little crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and we decided to do what we're calling dry December. So it's, everything, anything that could be an influence,
And
a substance, a mind
altering your
altering,
mind at
thing.
all.
So like, anything from it could be something that we might feel addicted to,
Mm-hmm.
but for me it's like, alcohol,
What did you
and
call it? California
California sober.
sober. I love that line.
It's not California sober, it's full sober.
Yeah.
Because like California sober, I feel like
It's just marijuana.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
But like for this, it's like I'm leaning more towards just cleansing myself of everything.
So food as well?
Yeah, I've been eating pretty
You've been doing that
clean.
anyway.
Yeah, well, I was on, but of course, with these types of things, when you're drinking, you want to eat certain things. When you're a little toasty, you want to enjoy
Yep.
a little bit of a different food than you might normally. I'm
True.
not eating as much protein. I'm maybe probably eating a little bit more fried
Yep.
foods. So yeah, it was a little bit of a we're gonna step away and really kind of focus on creating or breaking bad habits and seeing what that experience is like,
Mhm.
seeing if we're feeling tempted, seeing if it's altering our minds in a different way after we're stepping away from it.
Got it. Well, so two things that jump out at me. One is, so are the three of you having like accountability meetings about this, or like is that helping that you're doing it? You said friends. I assume it's two friends. The two
Yeah.
friends you have your business with. We have our business with.
Yeah.
And I'm not participating, mind you. That's why I'm a minority owner. I don't play these games. But do the three of you like check in daily, or how do you?
Yeah, we're not doing daily check-ins. It's kind of like so every morning, we have our team huddle. We
Yep.
also have our other team
Yep.
huddle. So like, we're basically just touching base, throughout the week on how you guys feeling. And if one of us has like something that comes up temptation-wise, it's like, oh, last night I was feeling really tempted by
Okay,
this, and
good.
we kind of talk through it a little bit, which is I feel like it's a really cool experience to have that with men in this at our age group,
Yeah.
in the generational kind of
Such
like
an
where we're
important
cultural.
change you're
Yeah.
making, I think, to the whole concept of who men have to be.
Yeah.
And it makes for just so much better, so in my opinion, so much better everything,
Yeah.
politics, economy, etc. When you are tempted,
Yeah.
is this a group of people you can call during the temptation? Like, say at midnight, you're sitting there and you're like, I know I'm California sober, but I just had this most stressful thing happen. Do you like, can you pick up the phone to one of these guys and say, you
Yeah.
know, Kenny, Ricardo, I talk to me quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I feel like the relationship that kind of we've built, we feel comfortable calling, like, really at any
At
point
any
if
time?
anything comes
Awesome.
up. But what's been cool about this is, like, I feel like as I go through these things, I definitely, knowing that people are doing it with me is enough, I think,
Yeah. Because you'd
to
let them down.
fight the temptation. Yeah, exactly. It's
It
kind of going
is.
back to what we talked about before, you
We'll
know?
let ourselves down, right?
Yeah,
Like we'll
yeah.
break promises to ourselves, but we won't break them to our friends.
Exactly.
That's the same with clients.
Yeah.
You'll find that, like, I know as an accountant, my taxes were done late,
Yeah.
right? Because I'd never break a promise to a client, but will I break it to myself? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just the way it works.
Which
But
is an interesting dynamic when you think about it.
it really is,
Yeah.
because if we take care of ourselves, then we're in much better shape to that. When you're on the airplane, it's give the oxygen to yourself first, then your kid,
Yeah.
which is very counterintuitive for us humans.
Yeah. I
Um,
think the mindset thing with this is, we deserve to do these things. You know what I mean? Going back to what we talked about last, like good habits, we also deserve to put the time in to see if things that we're leveraging are
yeah.
bad habits. Like drinking for me is something where I can recognize that familially, looking at ancestors,
Oh, okay.
addiction
It's
is a
in the
common thing
family.
in the family. And
Okay.
then it's also a common thing in the adopted family. So being able to
Okay.
really confront that head on and recognize that, okay, I
It's a
do have
big
an
deal.
addictive personality,
Yeah.
and I'd rather be addicted to working out and reading and
Right. If you got to feed an
yeah,
addiction. So it's very, I also have a very addictive personality. We
yeah,
were talking about this when I stopped something. So I smoked, I drank Diet Coke, I
yeah,
drink beer now. When I stopped something, and I tried so many times to quit smoking, and I tried tapering off, and I tried, oh, I'll only, back in the day, I'll only do one pack a day. I'll only
yeah,
do half pack a day. Well, that never worked.
mhm,
But what did work was cold turkey.
yeah,
Is I literally, for whatever, and I still can't distinguish what it was on these particular days, the 2 days that I quit these things. But smoking, I just woke up and said, "That's it, I'm done."
yeah,
And Diet Coke, I woke up and said, "That's it, I'm done." But I will tell you that for probably 3 or 4 months after that, certainly with the Diet Coke was harder than cigarettes, people.
really.
That's, yeah.
It's sugar.
No,
No?
Diet Coke. It's Diet
Oh,
Coke. And it wasn't the caffeine and it wasn't the saccharin, it was the habit, it was the taste, it was the, like, I had no physical withdrawal symptoms of
interesting.
either thing.
Yeah.
It was just the habit. Like with smoking, I knew when I got in the car, I instinctively wanted to roll my window down and light a cigarette
Mhm.
because I'd done it for 22 years.
Yeah.
Well, 20 years since I was driving. With the Diet Coke, it was everywhere I was. Like what would happen to me is I'd go to an event, and I remember this one event. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like the last event, there was no Diet Coke to be found. This one, there was a refrigerator lined beautifully with
It's just
Diet
Diet
Cokes.
Cokes.
And you know how when my mouth's watering. You know how when you look at a can, you can see that it's cold, like it's
Yeah,
got
it glistens a little bit.
it was full. There had to be 150 to 200 of them in there.
In your ear, you kind of see it, and you
And
have the Halo angels singing in your ears.
it was two
Ah.
days after I quit.
Yeah. Oh man.
And so I find that really hard.
Yeah.
However, once you break through that, it was good. So for you, how has this first kind of couple weeks been?
I think so. Earlier this year, I did something similar,
Yeah,
but
I
I did it on a
remember.
much larger scale.
You've also
Um,
changed all your eating habits
yeah,
and gotten
yeah.
fit and lost weight and all of those
Yeah,
things.
and I think that a lot of those things were just because I was like, oh man, like I just don't feel good anymore. And it wasn't even about like, oh, I need to break habit. It was just like, oh wow, I don't feel good
Okay.
in health right now because I'm drinking so much, I'm smoking,
So
I'm
you
doing X, Y,
felt
and Z.
like, yuck, I feel like crap.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And that was really what the change was there. But going off of that during that time wasn't as difficult.
Okay.
With drinking. Drinking is something I've always been okay to
To
not do if
stop.
I need,
Okay.
you know what I mean? The other side of it though, where leveraging things for anxiety management, different things like
Yeah.
that, that's where that was a struggle. And what I realized was I've gotten to a really good place, and then I brought it back in. I was like, oh, I can manage and handle it and stuff.
Yeah.
And now that I'm stepping away again, it's like this time has been 10 times harder. One,
That's
too.
interesting.
Yeah,
So quitting it the first time was easier than quitting it the second time.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's really important. I found that with smoking.
yeah,
So I quit 100 times
yeah.
smoking, and it was always the next time was always harder, harder, harder. So
Hmm.
that's an important thing to think about if you realize you're in a bad habit early,
Hmm.
it's going to be a lot easier to quit than once you get down the road. Okay, keep going. I didn't mean to
Exactly.
interrupt,
No,
but
no, no. That's so important to emphasize there, because when you think about addiction or habits,
hmm
I feel like this is an interesting kind of territory that we're in because
yeah, every entrepreneur can relate to this. I know
yeah.
it.
But when you think about those things, right, it's so easy to just be like, oh, I could do it once. You know what I
hmm
mean? Or, oh, I can just do it right now? And for me, that's the personality that I have. If I do it, I know that I'm going down right back into it?
Yeah. Okay.
And
What a good self awareness to have, though.
yeah, it's also like a fear because I know what one growing up in a world where that was kind of
Got it.
prominent, and then two also recognizing in myself that I don't want to repeat the patterns of
hmm
kind of generational, not curses but traumas that
Yeah.
were what people have struggled with. I think that was one of the big things, so making sure that just one little taste is too much even.
That's amazing self awareness, and without kind of sharing super deep secrets,
Yeah,
you've had a glimpse of what the other path might look like.
yeah.
And does that image like help you, or does that image challenge you as you're trying to continue to do these things that are better and better for you and your life and your friends and your family?
I think it drives me. So, and then I
Good.
don't know if that means help or challenge, but it drives me
It's
because it
always
just
there.
drives me to stay on the right path. One of Going back to kind of the good habits that we've talked about, fitness, and
Eating.
eating the right way, taking care of my body in the way that I think I deserve to. Um, Going back to that mindset, putting the time in, you deserve to be on the right path, and you deserve to treat yourself in the way that you do. You need to. And
And you deserve the rewards of the right path.
exactly. And I'm not saying
And it's
that
different.
it's
Your
bad.
right is
Yeah,
different than my right. I'm not saying that
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
right like universal truth right.
a hundred
It's
percent.
your right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I people drink, people do what they need to do, and
Everybody's
or
got their
people do
right.
what they want to do and have fun with it. But for me, what I can recognize is like, oh wow, stepping away from it really becomes clear that
The difference.
I have like not an addiction because I wouldn't call
Yep.
myself like an addicted to these things, but
Right.
I have addictive habits with
Yep.
them. And I think that that's what the really interesting kind of process what this process has kind of
Yep.
allowed me to realize in myself, especially with the second time that I'm doing it now.
Yep.
Like, we were talking about we could potentially break it next year, but for me in my head, I'm like, I probably will,
Why?
maybe I'll drink every once in a while or
Yeah.
something like that if I'm in a social environment, it makes sense, but I'm never going to go out and buy,
Buy beer.
yeah, or
Except
something
for
along
me
those
for the
lines.
podcast.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's really interesting because the thing like I definitely have an addictive personality as well.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to work.
Yeah.
I'm
Me too.
addicted to spreadsheets. I'm addicted
I'm
to
not addicted to spreadsheets.
conversations with people. I'm addicted to like so for example, for a while, and this is going back, I don't know, 20 years. That many? No, maybe 10. Candy Crush
Oh
and
wow.
bingo,
Oh wow.
right? So here's what happened with that. I'm going to tell a completely transparent and honest story. I was
Yeah.
doing bingo on, the handheld thing, and I would just buy little things, just to move it along so I didn't
Yeah.
have to wait till tomorrow to do like classic addictive behavior.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait till tomorrow. I want to do it now. And would play for like that would be my wind down. So I'd start at like 8 at night and play till 11,
Oh wow.
right, or
Yeah.
whatever. Deb at one point showed me the Apple bill,
Yeah.
and I believe that in a month I had spent $1,000.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's like holy cow. And stop. So I said, "That's it. I'm done." I did another one of my cold turkey things, and I stopped. But that's when I realized just how addictive behaviors are.
Yeah. And the thing I think that we should emphasize here is you didn't do it all in one go. It was a small one here and a small one here and a small one
Little
here,
habits,
and it was
atomic
I'm
habits.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 30 cents. It's
Yeah.
a buck.
But
It's
then when you
five
in the
bucks.
grand scheme of things, it all just
It's like
adds up.
I did
Yeah.
what? And that's really so the awareness. I think the thing I've become aware of is that I do have an addictive set, and I pick which addictive behaviors I'm going to be okay with
Yeah.
for it, but they change over
Yeah.
time. Um, but that's not to say I can't still get trapped.
Mhm.
I think we all can if we have that tendency.
Yeah.
The thing with me, with when I don't drink beer, so I grew up in a household, opposite of kind of what you described, very healthy environment. I was just totally blessed with not having to deal with what a lot of people had to deal with in their
Yeah.
childhood. I was told I could do anything I wanted to do. I was never hungry. My parents weren't, well, I don't think they were alcoholics.
Yeah.
However, what I will say is every night when my dad came home, my mom had martinis ready for them and they drank a couple martinis every night.
Gotcha.
And that was just, and they smoked too.
Mhm.
It was just, I kind of took on that habit now and I have a couple beers every
Yeah.
night. And that's not great, right? It's
Yeah.
not great for you. So, and I know it. So when I stopped though, I stopped cold turkey.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the only way I can do it. Because for me, if I don't say I'm not going to have beers for a while, period, and I have one, I'm going to have two.
Yeah.
And I just know that about myself.
Yeah.
So,
That's really interesting. So here's a question for you. Thinking about the entrepreneurship mindset
yeah,
and how we approach things and where it's all in one way and it's
yeah.
all in the other way, do you find that building a good habit is harder or easier than breaking a bad habit? Because for me, I find that it's the latter. Breaking a bad habit is much more difficult for me than building a good habit.
See, I kind of think of them as one and the same,
Yeah.
right? So, and they're both hard. And hard's the wrong word. I like to say it's hard because I think people often do these kind of shows once they're
Yeah.
through something. And it's like, yeah, it was hard for me 5 weeks ago. Well, it's hard for me now.
Yeah.
And I instead of thinking of it as breaking a bad habit, I think of it as creating a good habit. So,
Yeah.
for example, if I were to decide, I'm not going to drink beer for a while,
Hmm.
I would replace it with something. And I'd
Hmm.
say my good habit is going to be every night I'm going to have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And that would be the habit I would, so then I'm not focused so much on giving something up as taking on something new
That's that. I feel like that could be why you're so successful when you do.
when I do decide.
Yeah.
Smoking, I forget. Well, smoking, it was definitely eating. I took up. That's when I gained my 20 pounds of smoke quitting food.
Oh, okay.
Um, Diet Coke was also eating. Beer, I don't want to be eating, so
Yeah.
I'll probably do tea or something because I like tea.
Yeah.
And it's really not so much when I think about it. This is what's so weird about it. When I think about it, it's not so much like a buzz I'm after, or I like the crack of the can. It's like with the Diet Coke. It wasn't the caffeine. I like the crack of the can. I like the pour. I like the taste. I like the smell, and that I can get with tea.
Yeah.
Right? It a little. You just have a different ceremony, right?
Yeah.
Different little ceremony. So that would be kind of how I'd have at it. I don't think breaking a habit is easy. I think creating new ones is easier, but they're both hard.
Yeah.
Like I should be walking every day. Here's another one. I should be out walking every day. I should be on that rower every day. I just have to freaking do it. And I
Hmm.
have not made myself get out from behind the computer to do it.
Do you think that that's because your
Lazy?
no, your health isn't as much of a priority to you as your work?
Well, I've been either blessed or cursed
Yeah.
with not feeling crappy when I'm overweight or, I drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people have stomach issues, anything they
Yeah,
eat.
that's
A
me.
lot of people don't feel good when they don't exercise. And I imagine if I started exercising, I'd see a whole different level of feel good.
Yeah.
And then I'd go, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
But as it is, I love my life. I love
Yeah.
how I feel. I love my life. Once I got my second knee fixed,
Hmm.
I'm like, well, that feels good. Um, and so I don't like Deb, if she eats something that's bad for her stomach hurts.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen to me. Doesn't happen. That I really I'm impressed with your doing this with your friends.
Hmm.
You kind of inspired me. I'm not going to commit to anything here, mind you, but I think that actually is the mindset we go through. It's like you get a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of
Yeah.
inspiration, and I like sharing the struggle to get into a good habit. And at some point, I'm going to crack and go, okay, I'm just going to start doing it. And it'll be interesting when that happens to study why.
Yeah. And one thing that I would say on this, and I think it's really important, is do things with a community of people
Yeah,
that,
your tribe,
yeah, because
whatever it is.
no matter what your mindset is, if it's kind of going back to what you said, calling somebody when you're feeling that temptation,
Mhm.
and it's maybe if you actually have a full-on addiction, it's calling your sponsor or something
Right,
like that.
right.
But for even if it's on a smaller scale, with this type of thing, it's just knowing that you have people that you can reach out
Mhm.
to, connect with, that you're going through the same struggle, connect with, that you don't have to break
Mhm. And
the
make
goal.
commitments to other people
Yeah,
because as bad as it is, we tend to keep those more. I
than we
love
do
that
to ourselves.
idea.
Yeah,
And the other really important thing I just want to say, especially on the changing a habit to something
yeah.
new, because despite my mindset thing of I'm starting something new as opposed to stopping something, you always have that urge, right?
Hmm.
What I realized or learned from a really good coach of mine is that that urge passes very quickly. So, say
Yeah,
for example, I wanted a Diet Coke and I like look at that refrigerator, I'm like, oh my God, I could reach in there, grab one of those, pop it, that's going to taste great. It's going to sound great. I'm going to hear that fizz. I'm going to smell this. I mean, like all of that's muscle memory for
yeah,
me. But that passes in a second. Like if I
yeah.
literally walk by, it's gone.
Temptation lasts a second, regress lasts a lifetime.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go. Oh my God, listen to you reeling off philosophy.
Yeah, but it's true. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. I
Like,
love that.
temptation is such a temporary thing, but the moment that you break and you
And
can't
we
go
react
back
very
into that,
fast to it
yeah,
because we're in
it's
that adrenaline space. We're
yeah.
not in that pause space. But
Hmm. It's one
very
of those
cool.
things. Yeah.
I think it's a very neat thing to be talking about as we wind down the year because all of these things affect our work with other people.
Yeah.
And, to me, the transparency of it is important
Hmm.
that everybody knows there's just a no judgment zone,
Yeah.
especially with entrepreneurs. Well, anybody. I don't know why I say especially entrepreneurs, but definitely with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We are so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And everybody's walking around with things that need to be fixed and things that are going great.
Hmm.
And, once you get to know people, there's always more to the story. And that's the cool thing about getting out there and meeting more and more people as our businesses grow. So
Yeah, I love that. It's going into the end of the year. Do you have any resolutions? I mean, I know that we still have like maybe 2 weeks before we have New Year's, but
I
kind of
would,
piggybacking off of this conversation, is there a goal that you have kind of for a habit to develop or something like that, or a habit to break this year upcoming in 2025?
yes, I think I'm going to write, I'm not going to go crazy,
Yeah.
but I think I'm going to write myself a letter from Pam December 2025
Hmm.
back to Pam December 2024 that says, congratulations on walking at least 3 to 4 times a week,
Yeah.
every week this year.
I love that.
You feel better, your legs are stronger, which is one of the muscle things I need to work on because I'd had the bad knee for so long.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to ramp up to some major thing that I might fail at.
Yeah.
But that I can do, and the way I can do that is I can celebrate that my knees don't hurt.
Yeah.
I walked for so long with knee pain that every time I walk, whether it's up and down the stairs or around the
Hmm.
block, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like I can walk
It's a
without my knee
celebration.
hurting.
Yeah.
So I want to live into that.
I
How
love
about
that.
you?
Um, it's interesting. A buddy of mine sent me something this morning actually, and it was not three things. It was things that going into a new year, every year, setting like a large scale goal. Because if you accomplish that goal, if it's a large scale goal, um, the feeling of success is so much greater.
Oh yeah, you're gonna
Especially if it's a
climb Mount
long
Everest,
term.
aren't you?
No, not Everest.
Okay.
The goals.
I thought
So
it's gonna happen.
not yet.
Okay.
But there's three that I kind of came to officially full send launch on the business that we've been working on
Good. Do you
developing.
have like a financial target in your mind or?
I think that really the goal would be, so I'm very happy in my role with the multiple businesses that
Hmm.
I'm working in, from
We should talk about
priorities.
it. That gets complicated sometimes, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we're navigating it really nicely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's so much going on. So, but I'm really happy, and I feel like I've really kind of come into my stride in each of these kind of things, even though I'm juggling three different
Hmm.
things in one time. But so I think the main goal would be to get it to the point where my partners can step away from the stuff that they're not happy with, because I don't feel the need to do that. So building this to a point where they can step away and really chase the passion that they really want to, I
Got
think is
it.
my main goal. And that's what I mean by full send launch on that,
So in other words, you guys, this business is 100% for them.
Yeah, there's, well,
100% for them, and
I mean,
whatever
yeah.
percent for you, but 100% for them.
Yeah, and by that I mean, not that we're building it only for them, but it's,
Right.
the mindset of their dreams and their goals are so much greater than what they're involved in right now,
Got it.
that I think we can take this business to that
To
point
that
and
level.
accomplish those goals for them. And that's like one of the big things I think that I would really love to do. One of the other things is doing another trifecta Spartan race trifecta. I want to do 2 this year. I think that would be really
Two
cool.
threes?
Yeah,
So
2
you do 6 races,
6
6
races
Spartans.
total, and a marathon. I think would be cool to do
How
this
is your
upcoming
knee
year.
from the last one?
Finally fine. I went on like a longer run this morning. It was the worst part of the run this morning was just it was like 20 degrees out. It was
Oh,
freezing.
okay. Yeah. Yuck.
And then the last one is just, fully kind of embracing and recognizing what it means to be happy as a human being, and no matter what that is.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that third goal.
Yeah, and it's those goals are hard because they're not necessarily like super concrete, like
Yeah.
specifically metric wise. It's more of like an emotional thing. The Spartan
Yep.
race is, but I think that all of these goals contribute to one overarching goal, which is just continuing to
Grow.
grow and be a
Grow.
better man and a better person every year.
Yeah. I'm going to think about that. And maybe at the next one, I'll tell you, hey, here are the 3 I'll throw out there.
I love that. Yeah.
The walking is one, but to me, that's more of a habit than a goal for the year. I haven't thought about yet the goals for the year. However, I am going to an event with one of my coaches next week.
Awesome.
Where we're going to spend, 4 hours really diving into this and what's really how we limit ourselves in thinking about what's going to happen a year from now. Because I've told you this before. Every time future Pam has written a note to current Pam, when I've looked at that note in the future, what I put in that note has happened. There is magic that happens. Call it God, call it universe, call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's magic that happens when you write things down. And I don't mean type them, I mean write them down.
Yeah.
And I often forget I've done it, and then I come across this thing 3, 6, 9, 12 months later, and it's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
That thing happened. Not in any way that I expected to happen. And in some cases, it's not even important to me anymore. But it happened.
Isn't that beautiful, though?
It is one of the most magnificent things. And every day I'm like, why don't you do that more, Pam? Why don't you do that more?
Yeah.
It's because I love my life. I'm very blessed that way. That, I've got a fantastic family. I've got a fantastic team. I've got 3 dogs, should be 4, but I've got 3 dogs and a cat, and friends, family. I love what I do.
Yeah.
All of that. Of course, that's part of the problem, right? That I was saying before. I don't feel the bad stuff I do because I'm really blessed. But on the other hand, I don't want to. So don't universe think that I want a stomach ache every time I eat something bad. But what a great conversation coming into year end. And I will. Next time we talk, I'll have kind of what I think my 3 big goals will be, and I'll have written my letter. So here's my challenge to you guys out there. Write this letter to yourself.
Yeah.
Pick 3 things that at the end of next year, you really want to have accomplished. And write yourself a note to today you, but in the future tense.
Yeah.
So like, for example, Francis, you knocked it out of the park with those 2 Spartan races. You did this, which you never even anticipated. You were going to, you did more than you ever anticipated.
Yeah.
Now you're ready to climb Mount Everest, which you may not even want to do. But as hard as these Spartan races are, I'm like, Everest can't be that much harder. But
I don't know.
guess it probably is.
I think it definitely is.
Yeah, I guess do it all with no oxygen, right?
Yeah.
So challenge yourself to that. Throw them down. If you've come up with your 3, drop them in the comments.
Yeah.
We'd love to see what they are. We'd be glad to share them.
Yeah.
If you want your name shared, we can share it with your name. If you want to stay anonymous, we can do that as well. But I think it's an important thing for us to be thinking of as we wrap up 2024.
Yeah, and kind of to add on to that, lean on us as a community.
Yeah,
don't do
absolutely.
any of this stuff by yourself. Really lean on the people around you. Lean on us. Lean on your family. But don't think that you have to do any of these things by yourself.
Alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very, very good point. And entrepreneurship can feel so lonely.
Yeah.
Until we realize just how connected we really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this very special episode. And we will see you next week with another cash flow. Take care and have a great week.
See you guys.
Thanks so much for watching the Cash Flow Podcast with us. We want to bring more and more of this to you, so please like, share, subscribe, comment, so that we can keep bringing more of this content to you.